Hey guys, welcome to Comic Book University. I'm Professor Bill. Guys, this is the fifth podcast, inaugural. Today was actually the inauguration, so I guess this is what's in my mind. We're still alive. We'll see how much longer that lasts, but we are still alive. I guess literally taking things day by day, right? We got the weekend, and then we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, episode 5, guys, if you're listening to me on SoundCloud or if you're watching me on YouTube, I want to thank both of you. Probably only 2 people watching, but I'm joking. But specifically, yeah, I do want to thank you guys. Whatever medium is best for you, if you want to jog and listen to me on your headphones or you want to listen to me in your car, you're probably going to want to check me out on SoundCloud. And if you're sitting down at your computer and you want to see all the silly gestures I make and anything that I do like a visual reference, then by all means. For instance, where am I touching right now? No, you SoundCloud perverts. That's my nose. The point is that, yeah, I'm just playing around. Anyway, you can check me on either medium. Comic Book University, 3 words, no dashes, just spaces in between on either medium. And I'm going to see about trying to get onto other mediums as well. We'll see what happens day by day, right? Literally, day by day. That's what we're going by. So anyway, my typical form is to discuss one subject and to go on about it for about a half an hour. Sans the last episode, that was actually an hour talking about one subject. What I'm going to try and do is stick to maybe 2 or 3 subjects and try and keep it down to approximately half an hour and try really hard not to go over an hour. But we'll see what happens as time goes on, as more people want to discuss. I really am in this for the long haul. This isn't some fly-by-night kind of operation thing. I don't get paid for this. This is literally a love, a passion that I have. So I have no problems just continuing and continuing. I don't need a million hits. I genuinely don't. So anyway, what I want to do is I want to talk about the biggest news right now probably is Logan, that trailer, man. Oh my God, was that not amazing? So I want to point out first off that I did the reaction video for Logan. You can find that on YouTube. And got a lot of hits, got about 1,000 hits or so. And, a lot of love, mostly love. Got a couple people throwing an insult here too. I think 2 people maybe threw an insult. Whatever, converted one. I'm all about love, guys. That's the thing, I guess, with the reaction videos, is I'm going to get a much bigger crowd in that regards, because when push comes to shove, you have to specifically be looking for one of my comic book reviews or specifically be looking for information about a character that I've already discussed in order to see me otherwise. But if you're just looking for a movie in general, there are a lot more people looking for movies than for individual issues of comic books. And that's just the way it is. So I'm going to have a much wider berth in regards to audience. And I got a thick skin, regardless of what some people might want to say. Can't serve 6 years in the military and not have a thick skin. So you can't get to my age without having a thick skin. And I want to thank my buddy Rob, who pointed out, Bob, he pointed out a very specific point about a specificator. When push comes to shove, the people who want to say that you have thin skin or that you're sensitive are usually the people that are trying to insult you and don't like the idea that you are sick of hearing their insults. So, it is what it is. But the way I look at it is haters going to hate. And anything that you've got to say that can be easily brushed aside by a great American philosopher like Taylor Swift, it's not really worth listening to then, is it? So let's move on. Logan was a good trailer. This is Wolverine number 3. I look forward to seeing it. My reaction videos are exactly that. More specifically, they are first reactions. I don't pre-record my stuff. I will get the trailer. I will listen. I will watch the trailer live, not live, but recorded. I don't do reshoots on that. It's not what I do. And I don't usually edit. I edited one time. I edited an Iron Fist video because I went on too long of a rant. I literally went on for about a half an hour, and nobody wants to sit for half an hour for a reaction video for a 30-second clip. But so that I edited. But aside from that, I don't edit my stuff. So you're literally getting my very first reaction and everything that I can give you from my initial take. Maybe I should start doing first reaction, second reaction to the same the same trailer, you know. But yeah, I am giving you my first reaction, my initial. So when push comes to shove, you know, when you got a camera on you and you know that you're about to just literally push it out and let the world see it, you don't have a whole lot of time to stop and think about what you think about the video. It's literally whatever first comes to your mind. And you can change what you're saying as you're saying it, you know. But I don't know. To me, I like the video. I did like the trailer. I did like it a lot. I tend to have the habit of giving the bad news first and then going into the good news. That's usually what people say they want. It's not always the case. You know, today, I guess, people, you know, they hear you say something bad. They see that you got 8 more minutes worth of talking, which is all the good stuff, but they've already clicked it off and given you a dislike. Whatever, man. I'm good. It's activity. So it shows that I'm active. And, you know, as I've said before, I'm in it for the long run. This isn't some fly-by-night operation kind of thing. I do this whether people are watching or not because this is my passion. This is my hobby. This is my downtime. I've got my work. This is my play. So it's all good, guys. But try and keep it loving, right? So the trailer was good. I already mentioned in the reaction most of my points. Some of the addendums that I would like to make, though, I would like to change a couple things. Is actually, first off, discuss something. There was a part where Wolverine says to Laura Kinney, that's X-23, that's the little girl with the claws, because, as I've mentioned, she is the daughter / clone of Wolverine. I'm gonna actually have an about a minute video all about Laura Kinney. So in anywhere from 1 to 2 minutes, I will give you everything that you need to know about Laura Kinney. I just put up Ares earlier. He is going to be the main villain, well, the overarching villain for Wonder Woman in her movie. And she's actually the number one, he is actually the number one villain. My cat's scratching, so I'm a little distracted right now. He is the number one villain in all of the Wonder Woman comics. She has, you know, several villains, but that's the main villain. Like the Red Skull is the main villain to Captain America, and he has a whole bunch of other villains at various levels. Red Skull is the main one, and Ares is the main villain for Wonder Woman, and she does not have a very large retinue of villains. So, like, literally, to name off the really good ones, you got Cheetah, you got Giganta, you got Cersei. I mean, there's maybe I'm missing one, but not really. But the big bad of them all is Ares. And they're going to have Dr. Poison in there also. That'll probably take like 30 seconds to get through Dr. Poison, but whatever, man. He's supposed to be in there also, and he's probably going to be more prevalent, and I really hope they don't screw that up. So, yeah, quick little diversion there. I just talked about the Wonder Woman movie a little bit. Honestly, guys, for real, I am a huge DC Comics fan. I am not a huge DC movies fan. I mean, the last good DC movie that was made was the second Batman movie, like specifically like Dark Knight Returns. Dark Knight Returns? I can't remember what it is. For crying out loud. There was Batman Begins and then Dark Knight Returns, right? I think that was it. And then Dark Knight Rises. I didn't like that one as much. The Bane character was pretty cool. It was really cool. But yeah, I don't think that was nearly up to par with the other ones. And they have their own reasons for that. And I know what those reasons are. And I genuinely cannot blame them. I do not blame Christopher Nolan at all for just, you know, Heath Ledger died. So his entire script that he originally had to be trashed, needed a whole new script, and he still had a deadline. So I get it. It's not his fault. There's some things I'm sure are his fault, but whatever. The blame is far-reaching, and it doesn't end with him at all. But a bad movie is still a bad movie. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad movie, but it wasn't a good movie either. It was an okay movie. I mean, she's the first 2 Superman movies. I said Superman, not Man of Steel. I'm talking about the Christopher Donner movies. Great movies. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Man of Steel. It was okay. The ending pissed me off like it pissed off a lot of people. I did not want to see New 52 Superman in there. And whatever, it is what it is. So movies can be bad, but I still love the DC characters. I'm simply not the type to take whatever I get and be happy with it. And I'm going to give you a really good point, because a lot of people who are huge DC fans, DC movie fans, sometimes I wonder if they're really DC movie fans. I mean, if you're a huge fan of DC, I have yet to hear, and I do ask, and I usually never get even a decent response, at least off a good response, as to why they like the DC movies. I think it's more like it's a competition with Marvel, and that's what DC is doing, and that's stupid. My opinion. You don't try and compete with Marvel. There's no point. They've got a head start, 14-movie head start. You don't turn around and say, oh, well, this movie that we just did is actually going to be a part one. We just now decided that. Yeah, you also just now decided that you're going to edit the hell out of a movie that probably shouldn't have been edited, and you're making decisions last minute and changing scripts all the time, and it's going to wind up being as bad as the X-Men series. Look, because we're trying to stay on topic with Logan. The first X-Men movie was good enough. Okay? It was good enough. It wasn't great, right? Blade, I thought, was way better than that. And Blade 2 was, whoo! Blade 3, yeah, Ryan Reynolds is 1 out of 3. Let's just say that. And it's not even because Ryan Reynolds was actually the best part of that movie. Triple H's Chihuahua was probably the second best part of that movie, but was it a Chihuahua? I don't know what the hell that stupid little dog with fangs was, but it was what it was. But what I'm saying here is that the X-Men movies could have been better. All right, the second one was pretty good. The first one I don't think was good at all. When I first watched it, it was good. Hell, I thought that The Phantom Menace was a great movie when I first saw it. I remember me and my buddy Mark, we went and we saw this movie. It was a Wednesday. It started on a Wednesday. Took off. I took off of work on Wednesday. He wasn't working that Wednesday anyway. I had sick days, so I'm going to use my sick days. I don't care what Liam Neeson says. That was an interview that he gave one time where he says, I don't know why people are taking off of work. Well, I understand why he said that now. But yeah, we took off and we bought a month in advance 2 tickets each to go and see this movie back to back. First and second showings, because forget about it, man. We want to see this movie, So we literally did not even have to change seats in the theater. We saw the movie and then we waited for the next movie. We went to the bathroom and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, we want to see this movie in the worst way, because a Star Wars movie, they're going to make another Star Wars movie when you only had the initial 3, and we do not talk about the Ewoks. We do not talk about the Droids cartoon. And, oh, damn to hell if you talk about the holiday Christmas special. It doesn't happen, all right? We had 3 movies and that was it. There was nothing else with Star Wars, all right? Just these 3 movies. And we thought, wow, and George Lucas was going to do it and everything. And it's like, this is a dream come true. And the interviews that he had, oh man, yeah, I was doing Jurassic Park. And it's like, wow, man, we're going to be able to watch, or, we finally got the technology to make Star Wars, because we're making dinosaurs movies. So let's make another Star Wars movie. And I thought, yes, make another Star Wars movie. And we saw Phantom Menace. And it was like, dude, that was great. The nostalgia. Like, we were hyped on nostalgia. We were like shaking each other. Yeah, we got to see another Star Wars movie. And then we stayed to watch the second showing. We kind of walked out quietly afterwards. It was almost like we weren't friends after that. Mark is a great guy. But literally, like, we didn't know what to say to each other. Like, it was so bad. It was so bad. And it took seeing it that second time immediately to realize, like, I feel raped. It's a really bad choice of words, but whatever a minor form of rape would be, I guess. Just the idea that it's not cool, man. Like, I feel used. There we go. I feel used. I feel like I was just taken advantage of, You promised me a Star Wars movie. There were lightsabers in it. There were a couple of characters that I'd seen before, but what did I just see here? Look, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I will Mark Hamill out for a Star Wars. You like what I did there? You see what I did there? But I will seriously mark out for, seeing a Star Wars guy, be like, oh my God, it's, Mark Hamill, hey, But a bad movie, as I said, is still a bad movie. And Phantom Menace was a bad movie. And Clone Wars wasn't much better. The clone Attack of the Clones, what a dumb name. I know it's supposed to be based off a Flash Gordon serial. Whatever. I don't really care. I didn't pay to see Flash Gordon. I paid to see Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? And just he was just kind of all over the place in these movies. I remember when Revenge of the Sith came out. He really only made those 3 movies so that we could see how Darth Vader fell. So we technically didn't even need to see the first 3 movies. We really only need to see the 3rd movie. They could have condensed that. I mean, they probably would have been better off condensing it, making it an hour longer and just condense the stuff, whatever. But the point is that, people were happy to see that. And I remember one of my buddies from back in the day, Dan, I think it was Dan, he says, yeah, it was better than Empire Strikes Back. I never smacked him for that. I should. I might. I may do that next time I see him. Next time I'm in Jersey, I might just smack him for that. You remember when you said, psh? But the point is that, when you wait for a long time to see something, you've been waiting forever to see, like in DC's case, an extended universe. I can't tell you how excited I was when they said they were going to do that. And, hey, Zack Snyder, I was elated. I'm like, 300 was a great movie. You know what I'm saying? And a couple of his movies were okay. I didn't see all of his other movies. I saw 300. I saw it twice in IMAX. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it looks like on the regular screen. I've seen it on my TV screen a couple of times on Blu-ray, but when push comes to shove, that was a good movie. But you can't do the 300 version of Justice League. My opinion, it was a whole bunch of really cool scenes that had a very weak bond. You know what? Let's look at it as it's the gaseous state of matter, right? You got a whole bunch of very strong molecules that are all over the place, but there's nothing really holding it together. Really great concepts, fantastic ideas. There should have been a second director to come along and say, okay, now this is how we're going to tie all of your genius together to make it truly great. You know what I'm saying? It would be like if Albert Einstein wrote an entire book about how, all of this cool stuff works, but he took out every 3rd page. You wouldn't say it was genius anymore. You'd say it's incomplete. And I don't care if you're watching the extended version or not, the whole movie just feels incomplete because it's a lot of suspension of disbelief to get from one really cool scene to the next really cool scene. And that's not a movie. That's a I don't know what the hell that is. I don't know what that is. So, yeah, I wasn't very happy with that. Suicide Squad did a much better job, in my opinion. I don't blame Rotten Tomatoes for a bad movie. I blame the movie for being bad. That's what I blame. I think that the movie could have been a lot better. And I'm actually angry at them because, you've got the 3 most recognizable... There are 4 most recognizable heroes. Spider-Man is one of them. Spider-Man doesn't belong to DC. Spider-Man doesn't even belong to Marvel at this point, but they're working nicely with them, with Sony. But you got Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. And for the love of God, they were around forever. They are called the Trinity in the comics. Great comic, by the way. And look for that review this week. But you've got this incredibleness here, plus a cameo from The Flash and a cameo from kind of Cyborg and a cameo from Aquaman, which looks to be like the coolest incarnation of Aquaman ever. And the movie just was not as good as it should have been. Sorry. If you're given a ton of gold and you're told to make a really cool building, you could gold plate it and put it together, or you just break it into a bunch of little bricks, spread it all over the place, and say, "Isn't that cool?" No, it's not. Sorry. So it should have been better because it could have been better. It could have been a lot better. So it should have been at least a little bit better. Anyway, all that aside, the X-Men movies are not. And you know what? Sorry. Before I even get into that, I'm going to give you an even better example. My favorite hero. I'm wearing them right here. I usually am. I've got more Captain America shirts than I've got any other comic book superhero shirt. And I'm telling you right now, I love Captain America, but you will never hear me talk about how great the 1990 version of Captain America was, or how great the 1978 version or the 79 version of Captain America was, or that serial that came back in, what was that, 1942? Was it 46 maybe? Whatever it was. You will never hear me talk about how good those are, because they weren't. Because I'm not a liar. I'm not going to sit here and propagate something because it's my favorite hero and I'm trying to make you like something. And sometimes that's what I think that people are trying to do with the BVS movie. Take out the V. That's exactly what I think of that movie. It was BS. I was not happy with that. I'm not happy with the Captain America movies that have come out before. I am very happy with the Captain America trilogy that's out right now. The second half of the first movie could have been better, but I can watch the first half of that. I can watch the second half of that movie, but the first half of that movie I can watch over and over and over again, and I'm good. Like, just, and all those, and the movies just successfully keep on getting better. That is how you make a movie. That's how you make a movie. That's how you propagate a character. And they took a little bit from those stories and they moved on. One of the complaints that I got when I was talking about the Logan stories, that I said, you know, you've got all this great source material and you're literally spitting in the face of it. And therefore, it's kind of like you're spitting in the face of the fans. Some people who don't read the comics are going to complain. And there's very few of them. Very, very few of them. Enough that it's literally like, look, man, I'm going to talk nice to you because that's just who I am. But there's only but so much before I'm just like, you're cut off, man. Like the bartender at 2:30. You just, this guy really needs to be cut off, you know? So like, I'm actually doing you a favor. Give me your car keys, all right? And that's my point, is that, you know, you've got this great source material. So when you make a lousy movie, you know, oh, they're making a movie, not a comic book. Well, I guess that when you're talking about X-Men Origins Wolverine, yeah, maybe they should have just made a comic book instead. Because when it comes down to it, that movie sucked. And I just don't say, there's a lot of really cool Easter eggs in there, man. The Hudsons were in there from Alpha Flight. That was great. I picked up on that right away. And I was like, wow, they're old though. Whatever. It's a really great homage to the fans. Thank you, Fox, for putting that in there. That was cool. Everything else, I want to strangle you. Almost everything else, you know? I just don't get it, why they would do what they did. But I know why they did what they did to a very strong degree. They had the movie scheduled, you know? And that first movie was supposed to be a Magneto movie. It was supposed to be X-Men Origins Magneto. And it was supposed to have Michael Fassbender in it. He was supposed to play Magneto. Now, why didn't we see that movie? Well, actually, you did. It was called X-Men Last Stand. Nope, sorry. My mistake. That was the other movie that sucked. It was called X-Men... What the hell was that movie called again? X-Men something. It was that first one that had Michael Fassbender in it, right? Oh, jeez. I hope I remember before people just start plastering the comments. Hey, dummy, it was called... But... yeah, anyway, First Contact for all I care. The point is that it was that first X-Men movie, right? The reboot, after they rebooted it from those the first trilogy. This was the first part of the new trilogy. And really great cast, you know, for the most part. And it was much better than all the other movies put together. It was a good movie. Was it a super hit? No, I don't think it was a super hit. But it was good. It was so much better than the other ones that we want to get, especially as fans, we want to give excuses to these movies so that they're liked, so that they'll try and learn from their mistakes and try and make it better next time. The problem is they're not learning from their mistakes. I mean, we're talking about studios today where they'd rather make reboots, you know, and if they're going to take from, you know, a source material from a book, all right, and they're going to say, okay, here's like, let's say the Twilight, say the first movie that I know of that was made like this is the Twilight series. I didn't read those, okay? Just don't judge me. I did not read those. But when you have 4 books, you're supposed to have 4 movies. How'd they turn the last movie into 2 movies? I'll tell you how. It's called greed, the power of greed, all right? And they decided to make extra money off of that. Oh, really good job, morons. You know, you don't have any other source material to write. You're not going to make a part 6. You're not going to make another movie for that. It's not going to happen. Am I right or am I wrong? You know, somebody might, eventually, but it's not going to be from the original author, not like that. And I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Sorry, that's just my drawer, my knee. But when you're 6'5", you're always bumping into something. Just, I want to be tall. You better wear a helmet because you're always bumping your head on something. But anyway, so, you know, and I can say the same thing about Mockingjay. I can say the same thing about so many different movies, you know, books into movies. It's not cool, man. But now, here's the thing. You're not writing a comic book. That's really cute. Guess what? They're not making a novel when they're making the Twilight movies. And I'm telling you right now, though, if I went to see a movie based on a book, like if they do a remake of To Kill a Mockingbird, all right, one of my absolute all-time favorite books, you know, Harper Lee, just died a couple years ago. You know, when I go to see, you know, if they're going to make a reboot of this, I don't think they ever should. But if they did, and I went to go and see this, I'll tell you right now, people would riot. People would riot. You know, not a real riot, I'm being facetious, but people would be really upset if they went and made a reboot and it wasn't to the source material. Oh, we decided to make it so that, oh, for crying out loud, it's been a while since I read my favorite book, but what was the father's name in that again? Anyway, Attica? Anyway, so he, what if, you know, instead of being a lawyer, all right, what if instead he was working at a retail store? We got to make it modern, okay? So he's going to be working at a retail store, but he'll be a manager, and he's just solving a dispute between a one-armed black guy and a guy and his daughter, who she's claiming was raped, and in reality, it was probably the dad. I'm sorry, spoilers, but if they remade it like that, I'm sure there'd be a lot of people who'd be really upset. You know, I mean, let's say, take it today. If they made the Maze Runner movies and there was no maze, well, it was more of a maze of the mind. Yo, people would be kind of upset and talking about demanding their money back. This movie would be a bust. This director would never work again unless he was working in a retail store, talking about, this is like a maze of my career. Yeah, sure. Anyway, you don't want to see that artsy-fartsy garbage, okay? Especially considering the fact that X-Men, amongst all the franchises, has the second worst record. I'm going to say a second worst record because Fox also owns the rights to Fantastic Four. They have the worst record. X-Men has the second worst record of not following the comics, not really, and completely screwing things up. But I'm going to give you an example, the example that I gave with, you know, in the reaction that I gave. Deadpool was done horribly in X-Men Origins, right? The X-Men Origins Wolverine, but it was done really well as a solo movie, wasn't it? Why? Because Fox literally just says, whatever, man, okay, whatever. You want to make this movie, we just got a shift in management, whatever. Here's your little crappy budget, make your movie, and shut up already, all right? We're going to finally do something to please the fans. They're calling for this movie. Fine. Here's a little budget. Make your stupid movie. Shut your mouth. When it fails, you're going to shut up then, right? Well, it didn't fail. It was actually the most successful superhero movie that Fox has ever seen and that a lot of people have ever seen. And now what? Now they're listening. Now they're like, whoa. When I said shut up, it was more like a shut up of the mind. But I'm saying now, I want you to really talk to me. How are we going to do a sequel? How are we going to do a follow-up on this? You're going to do a follow-up, right? And that's what I'm talking about. When the studios, when the non-fans shut up and go away, now a movie can actually be made, a comic book movie, something that follows the source material. And understand what I'm saying when I say follow the source material. I'm not saying that you pick up a comic book and you say, okay, we got to get this scene now because it's in the comic. That's not what I'm saying at all. Not even close, man. What I'm saying is you get a real fan, somebody like Ryan Reynolds, who is really embodying the very aspect of this character. And he's making a film that doesn't reflect anything that happened in the comics. He's doing his own film, but he's being that character. That's the character. And that's what I want to see. Make a new movie but make the characters that you have represented there actually act like the characters. This way they don't just look like, you're putting a face on, with a popsicle stick. You got like a paper plate with a popsicle stick, like, one of my kids would make, with a little smiley face on it, like, the Deadpool sticker on there. I was like, I'm Deadpool. Look, I make fart jokes. And nobody wants to pay to see something like that. They're going to pay the money. They're going to feel cheated. Nobody wants that. What am I at the half-hour mark right now? All right. So I literally look at it as, actually let it be made by fans. Please step away from the movie and let the real people make the movie. Stop butting in. Fox has a horrible, horrible record of doing that. And it's not cool. You'd figure that, I used to teach third grade, and I would teach predicting reading to the kids, and they didn't understand what the word predicting is. So the way I would teach them is, I would say, okay, I'm going to walk out the room. I'm going to walk in, and I wouldn't say anything. I would walk in the room. I would hold an eraser in my hand, a board eraser, and I would close my eyes, look up in the sky, and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then tap them on the head with the eraser. Then I would put it down. I would walk out the room. I'd walk back in, pick up the eraser, do the exact same thing again. Bow, tap them on the head, walk back out the room. By the third time, sometimes by the second time, they would know to duck, put their hands up, predict, right? You'd figure that with these Fox execs constantly doing the same thing, constantly interfering and sticking their noses in, and then they hear the criticism and they go, they thumb their nose at us. You complain, you don't really know what you want. No, you don't know what you want. Stop making excuses, all right? Be a man, all right? And that's not gender specific. Be a human, okay? Be someone who's capable of taking some criticism and move on with your life, okay? It's one thing from taking an insult to taking criticism, I know that the sound on my stuff isn't so great. My videos aren't so great. That's why I'm trying to invest in getting a better mic. It's called taking criticism, constructive criticism, taking it. You can't take some criticism. I don't know why you're working in the field that you're working in. That's the problem with being a yes man or having too many yes men around you. That was the problem that George Lucas had when he was making the original trilogy. Or not the original trilogy. Sorry for that. I apologize. I meant the remakes, the prequels, all right? The prequels. Especially Phantom Menace. He had no filter. It was all him. No input from anybody else that he would listen to. And that movie fell apart at the seams. That was a Jar Jar Binks pile of crap. So sometimes you need to be able to take constructive criticism, and the execs at Fox really can't. Now, one of the things that did bother me initially, because the reaction was I saw them throw a comic book of the X-Men on the bed. And it was, I literally looked at this and I was like, okay, that's weird that he just kind of threw it on the ground like that, I'm okay with it. It is what it is. But I wonder if it was almost symbolic, because when you see, I know a lot of people aren't looking at the behind the scenes stuff that's going on. And I have very limited access. I don't work at Fox. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a source working at Marvel Studios who's going to sit here and tell me what's going on between these two. WikiLeaks isn't doing a whole, Julian Assange, he's not doing a whole lot with trying to figure out, what's going on between Fox and Marvel, all right? So we don't know everything that's going on. But believe it or not, there is a lot being released between these guys. You can see reports that are, these are publicly traded companies. So while emails will be private, there are certain dockets that are available that you can see, things that they're saying, and it doesn't take a whole lot of interpretation to understand what they're saying. They're publicly available, and if you want to, you can check those out. Or you can just pay attention to Comic Book University, because I check those things out, and I'm more than happy to share, all right? So when they have things on there talking about how they're not going to get along with Marvel and this and that and the other thing, sometimes you try and put two and two together. I don't know what to tell you. And sometimes you wind up getting number 5 instead of 4. Is what it is. So we know that they worked together a little bit nicely with Negasonic Teenage Warhead and Ego the Living Planet. All right, they both had the rights to each other, the powers that they wanted to use for Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and the actual entity of Ego the Living Planet. And they both talked nicely and said, okay, we'll write up some paperwork and we'll trade out these two intellectual properties like that. That was awesome. Marvel is more than willing to play ball like that. You know what I'm saying? They've always shown that, and just if there's any question that they're willing to play ball, and they're not just like, no, we want our property back, and that's all there is to it, just adjusting my light sources, then just look no further than Spider-Man. Look no further. They got to use him for a couple of minutes in the Marvel Captain America Civil War, and now they're going to have Iron Man in their movie, and they're going to be doing the movie, and Fox is going to be getting Sony is going to be getting the profits. And you thought that these two companies would never work together, right? But they are working together, and Marvel has always been willing to, from my understanding, Marvel has always been willing to work with them. They're the ones that kept on reaching out, you know, and it was always, you know, Sony that was backing up, and there's only always Fox backing out. Fox specifically doesn't like Disney, though. They've always had that rivalry with each other. It's not that it's almost like they hate Marvel through, what's that word? I just made a hypotenuse symbol there, but what do you call it? Aside from A squared plus B squared equals C squared, the idea is that they kind of hate them through, I hate that I can't remember that word, but they hate them, all right? They hate them by proxy. There we go. They hate them by proxy. So, you know, whatever. What are you going to do about that? But Marvel is showing that they're willing to play ball. They're willing to, I said that they'd be willing to lend Hawkeye to them. And I believe that they would. I absolutely do believe that they would. Charge some money? Maybe. You know, if Fox wants to, you know, make it official or whatever. Trade a character, you know what I'm saying? Just trade an appearance by a character. Whatever, man. Whatever. But now we get to see that Marvel is, once again, Marvel Cinematic Universe and Marvel Company is being a lot more cool. Because if you guys ever look at Nerdist, they don't need a plug from me, believe me. They're big on YouTube. They're big all over. But you check out the latest episode of Nerdist, as of me filming this. Jessica Chobot explains how Hugh Jackman said, I want an X-Men comic. If we had some X-Men comics, it would look really good for this. And Fox was like, there's no way that Marvel is ever going to let us just do that. And we're not going to be doing any trading or anything like that. Like, we don't want to give them anything. So Hugh Jackman goes directly to Joe Quesada. Joe Quesada he was the chief editor over at Marvel. He stepped down from that position to be chief creative. Axel Alonso is now chief editor, but editor-in-chief. But Hugh Jackman goes over to, and what a charismatic guy to be able to do this, goes up to him and says, listen, you think, you know, we could use a comic and whatnot? It's like, listen, we can't just let you use a comic because it's one of our properties, and, you know, that's not cool. But being who I am, what I can do is, and he was an artist before he was any of those high up positions. He was just an artist. And he goes and he says, listen, what I can do is I will make you your own comic. So apparently he made 4 comics that were each 4 pages long with a cover for Hugh Jackman to use in the movie. Come on. How cool is that? Marvel was okay with it. Like, you know, it's not one of our direct properties because that's a trademark. And you got to understand, this is actually based off of my last podcast, all right? Podcast number 4. This is podcast number 5. The trademark rules are very, very specific. If Fox were to use a paper, an actual copy of one of the comics, there's copyright issue, there's especially trademark issue, because they have the rights to the movie characters, not to the animated characters of the X-Men, and not to the, what do you call it, the TV, they have the rights to the TV versions of the X-Men now. That was through a special prior arrangement that Marvel allowed, right? Working with them, hoping they're going to be cool. But if they ever show a comic or any other form of medium like that, they're going to get into a lot of trouble. And then there's trademark issue, because now you have to, you know, if they show like the X-Men symbol, you know, or the X-Men title, you know, in the graphic that they always use, fading from big to little. well, now you've got a big issue. Now you're showing that you're giving up your trademark. They can't do that. They will they will literally lose the trademark to the X-Men, and it's not worth it to play nice with Fox, to lose their entire property in every way, shape, and form. It's like, no one would do that. There is not a single person in their right mind who would ever do that. So without the proper licensing and whatnot to say, hey, we're allowing this, they're using this with permission, now there's a bit of an issue, right? So yeah, there's a whole lot to do there. They have to protect their trademark. They have to protect their investments, their property. So he goes and makes a new comic for them. He calls it X-Men Comics, or X-Men Comics Group, as opposed to Marvel Comics Group, something to that effect. Makes 4 of them, and now there are 4-page Wolverine stories or X-Men stories that exist out there that I am currently sending out my minions to retrieve for me as a very special collector's item. But that's what Marvel was willing to do. That's what Joe Quesada did, clearly with the position that Marvel was okay with it. And the fact that he's not fired means that, yes, they were clearly okay with it. I think that Marvel is far more willing to play ball with Fox than Fox is with Marvel. And that's just is what it is. You know, either that or Hugh Jackman missed his calling as being the world's greatest lawyer. So that's just the way I look at it. You know, that's what they did. So hearing that bit of information, I now know that it was clearly an homage to Marvel to do that. It was kind of like okay, you guys are all right. You know what I'm saying? But here's the deal. So I'm very cool with that. You know, I really was, like, after I even finished the video, by the time I was finished with the video, I even said I'm kind of okay with it, you know, but whatever, it is what it is. In the meantime, that's good to know. Wolverine is apparently going to try and deny that he's Laura Kinney's father, but we'll see what actually happens. You know, what you see in a trailer, that bit from the trailer might not even make it to the movie. Who knows? But we'll see what happens. It looks like he's going to be denying it. I don't know why you would try and deny it. This is Chekhov's rifle. Why would you try and deny it if it wasn't going to prove later on? And honestly, even if they left it so that it was just open, that maybe he is, you know, that would be cool. Is Logan going to die at the end of this? I don't know that they would necessarily do that. They might also leave that open. Like, you know, they're just kind of sitting there hugging or whatever as the movie fades to black. Whatever they're going to do, this is really, like I said in my reaction, this is the best way that they can carry on this Wolverine property because it exists. They have the rights to it in the movie form, so they have to keep this property going. And Hugh Jackman doesn't want to keep on doing Wolverine, so good. Now you can have Wolverine in the form of Laura Kinney, because when you go to the comic book store and you pick up a Wolverine comic, Laura Kinney is Wolverine now. Logan, or you know, the old Wolverine Logan, James Howlett, is Old Man Logan. So you go and you find the Old Man Logan comic book. That's where you'll find that version of Wolverine. But the present day Wolverine is Laura Kinney, X-23. So, and she's a little older than that girl that was in the movie, Elsie, whatever. But anyway, so that's pretty much just what I wanted to get into. But I do want to point out that Fox does have a really bad reputation with their franchises, right? The Fantastic Four, Four Stick, all of it. It is the biggest flop of a superhero movie since Man-Thing. Yes, that was actually a real thing. It was straight to DVD, and it never even should have made it that far. So it should have been hidden. Honestly, I believe that Roger Corman's Fantastic Four movie was way better than the Swamp Thing movie, Man-Thing. But that's just my opinion, whatever. So when I see that the new X-Men movie is supposed to have Mr. Sinister in it, apparently, and there's going to be issues with the Phoenix. They're going to try and do the Phoenix saga again or something like that. They already messed that up. Why would they keep going back to the same well so soon? So soon. Why do that? There's so many other stories out there. Again, so much source material in comic books since the 60s. Why would you go to the exact same well? There's so many other wells you can go to. But whatever, I guess it's just no imagination. We're going to try and do the Phoenix story again. You saw that at the end of X-Men Apocalypse. I think that's a very stupid idea. I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all. No, that's a dumb idea. I think they should go another way. But whatever, man. They're going to do it. And it always seems like they're trying to skip over the regular Phoenix saga and go straight to the Dark Phoenix saga. Why? Whatever. But they have been dropping the ball more than, I think, than they've been picking up the ball. All right? And that's just the way I see it. So I don't really want to see them screw this up anymore. I want my X-Men movies to be good, but I'm not going to call it good just because they spoon-feed it to me. You know, I like Ghostbusters. I'm one of the people who made complaints, not about them being girls, to Sony. I could care less as long as the torch was passed from the original ones. I said have at least some of the original Ghostbusters in it, passing the torch. That's all it takes. Well, Bill Murray's not guaranteed he's going to get... Bill Murray's not guaranteed he's going to go to the bathroom when he has to. You know what I'm saying? And it's not meant to be an insult. It's meant to be a compliment to his ability to just do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, because that's what he wants to do. I mean, I think he's at that stage in his life when he can do that as a career, and that's incredible. I wish I can get to that level, you know? Are you going to be there? Maybe. If you're lucky, perhaps I will grace you with my presence. That would be great. But what I'm saying is, even if Bill Murray didn't show up to film those scenes or whatnot, you could still have them pass the torch over. Instead, they did all this other crazy stuff, and it wasn't good. They tried to make it a new universe, but they have all this backup material that they're referencing to, and it's just and then to just start insulting the fans and saying that they're sexist when no, you totally attack the wrong people with that. Attacking an angry video game nerd about that, yeah, like he needs a plug for me. But like, just it makes no sense. Absolutely no sense whatsoever. So yeah, when you do that, you already lost me. And they did the exact same thing before that with the Fantastic movie. We sat there and we said, what are you doing with Dr. Doom? What do you mean you're not going to make him Dr. Doom name? What are you going to make him Van Damme? We don't want to see Van Damme, all right? We saw that in the Ultimate X-Men movie, or Ultimate Fantastic Four comic book. And that comic sucked, especially the Dr. Doom aspect of it. It sucked, all right? He had goat legs, for crying out loud. So we complained about that. We complained about the fact that he was going to be more of an internet troll than an actual super genius. He was from someplace in Europe as opposed to from Latveria specifically, at least off actually in control of it, that he wasn't going to have magic. All these different things. And we're telling them, listen, if you want us to like your movie, this is what you've got to do. And they took that as an insult. You're trying to tell me what to do? And literally one of the many, 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 many things that we complained about was the idea that Johnny Storm was going to be black in this, right? Because if he's black and Susan Storm isn't, well, now they're not actual biological, you know what I'm saying, brother and sister. Even if they were half brother and sister, I could get it, you know, to a degree. But the thing is that both their mother and their father, whom they shared, same mother, same father, there was so much backstory involved with these two, with these siblings, you know, that even if you just say, oh, only one of their parents is the same parent, it would still take away from so much of the story. And then to sit there and say, oh no, fully adopted, she was just adopted. You just told us that flat out we're never going to get, there's no hope for us to get these stories that we want, which are some of the best stories that they have. That's far-fetched, but they are some of the best stories, you know? They're of the best. So we were just told that, and they literally took that and said, oh, see, they're racist. I'm not racist. And when I say I'm not racist, no, I'm serious. I have family members who are black. I actually married into a black family. Yeah, my wife is African. So, no, my kids are actually mixed. Sorry. It's great to sit there and suggest something like that, but I don't even need those credentials to say something like that. I mean, when push comes to shove, for crying out loud, there are people who maybe don't even have black friends, but they're more about you're messing up my comic, and you're clearly not giving me what I want as a fan. Who are you going to apply to? Who are you going to appeal to? You're going to make a comic book movie, but you're not going to appeal to the comic book fans? Who are you going to appeal to exactly? And that's not what we want to see. That's not what we want to hear. And we sure as hell don't want to hear you guys calling us racist because we comment on the ethnicity of one of the characters. And we don't want to hear you call us sexist because we say, we're the original Ghostbusters. How are they going to be involved in this? That's all we wanted. But instead of just simply, even if you just ignored it, ignore it. You know, what's better is to just actually address it. All right? Give us something. Tell us, trust us. When you see the movie, you're going to like it. But no, instead, they quite literally act like children. And they want to start pointing fingers and calling names and things like that. That's just, that's as lousy. And you know what? Both of those movies failed. They completely bombed. Is there anything else that you guys at Sony want to tell us now? Are you going to learn from your mistake? Or are you literally that dumb hamster who's going to continually gnaw and gnaw and gnaw at the cage? We know there's no way you're going to cut through all that metal and escape, but you're going to continually gnaw at the same spot trying to get out. I've had many hamsters in my life. Not a single one has ever escaped by gnawing out of a cage. Jumping out of my hand, they've escaped. But, you know, that's a patience matter. And, okay, you want to be a hamster, fill your cheek pockets up with whatever little money you can get out of the movie, but it's not going to be a success. It will not be called a success. Go ahead, insult your direct main fan base. That's the epitome of stupid. So likewise, though Fox doesn't necessarily do that, it is still insulting that, you know, they've given us some things, you know. The Juggernaut, bitch. That, we enjoyed seeing that because those of us who've seen that internet mashup, right, of the X-Men TV series, right? We saw that mashup where they got the other people overdubbing their voices on this, and that's one of the things that was continually said. You can actually look up "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch" on YouTube right now. Very, very funny skit. I wish I would have thought of that. It was really that good. And they had that scene in there. And that was great. I liked seeing that. I didn't like the way that Juggernaut looked. I didn't like the way he was beat. I didn't like the idea that he would lose his powers from a person who takes away mutant powers, because apparently these people didn't read enough to know that Juggernaut's not a mutant. And it's just things like that. We're going to notice the cool things you do, but we're going to notice the stupid things that you screw up on. And that's what happens when you don't get consultants who actually know the product. But when you have somebody like Ryan Reynolds who does, you're going to get something a whole lot better. And literally, like, who was in that movie? They had a quick little thing of a potential appearance by Bob, who they don't own the copyright to. All right? But they literally took what little they had to work with, made a completely, entirely new story with all new characters, with the exception of Colossus, all right? And yeah, what's her name? Negasonic Teenage Warhead, but who's really heard of her, right? And if you have heard of her, you probably didn't realize that they switched her powers out. It's not an insult. It's just she's a very low-class character. They could have just made her up, but yeah, and it worked really well. Kind of hard to argue with, but you know, there's still those who will argue. And they're usually the execs who are trying to justify their job. Okay. Try doing that if you're working at retail or working at McDonald's or something like that, right? Okay, the burger doesn't look like this. Okay, well, my burger looks like this and it'll sell. Go ahead, give it to the customer. You're fired. Right? You're gone. Bye. So that's really my rant. I want to see them do a good job. I don't want to see them screw anything up, right? What's the funny little thing that I put here? Jean's the mother. Phoenix at the end. Come to find out, oh yeah, the Logan movie. If they're going to screw up the Logan movie, if they're going to keep doing the kind of things that they do to try and give us cute little subplots and whatnot, watch them turn around and say at the end of Logan, yes, Wolverine, you are the father, but Jean Grey is the mother. Haha, because they hooked up once, maybe. Like, I don't want to see silly stuff like that. You know, I want it to be as close to the comic as it can, as it has to be, so that they're still the same characters. I don't want to see you completely screw up a character's origin unless you have a very good reason to do it. Don't just do it for the sake of doing it. That's not necessary. You own the origins. You own the rights to the origins, in movie form. Use them. Use what you got. All right? If you're a boxer and you've got a mean left cross and you never use it, why? In fact, Gorin no Sho, Miyamoto Musashi, his book, The Book of Five Rings, he actually says in there, if you have two swords and you die only having one in your hand and the other one is still sheathed, you died dishonorably, because you did not use everything that you had in your arsenal to its utmost ability. So you've died without honor. How many times has the X-Men franchise died without honor? Only to be resurrected again, to die without honor again. So that's not the kind of Phoenix Force that I want to see. Anyway, guys, cutting this off. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Check me out, SoundCloud and YouTube, whatever. Check them both out. No spaces. Comic Book University. 3 independent words. And class dismissed.